Hey y'all, it's your girl, the real deal, Anita's Gears Reaction. Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah. Okay. Hey y'all. Gonna watch a live about the polygraph test that Letecia took, and it's not legit. Okay, hold on for 1 second, y'all, because I'm trying to see what's really going on. Hold on for a second. Okay. Oh, I know. I need to turn it off. Sorry, yeah. I need to turn because I'm sorry. Let me turn the music down. Okay, here we go. About to watch a video on Letecia fake polygraph. Okay.
About 10, 15 minutes, and he said it again. I still don't have it.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's actually been blocked by management, this order, due to the content of the questions, so we're not going to be able to send this report.
Okay, so do I get my money back?
Unfortunately, not on this case, no. Obviously, due to our terms and conditions, it does clearly state that any sort of illegal activities or anything like that, obviously the management do reserve the right not to send the report. Obviously, we do incur processing fees, so that's why a refund wouldn't be due.
So what can you do now? Just delete it and go on about life and some money?
Yes, we would do indeed.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now. Bye-bye.
All right. Did y'all hear that? But for 1 second. All right. Did y'all hear that? But I'm going to. For 1 second. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna play this one. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna play this one. Hold on, y'all, for 1 second. Hold on. Hold on, y'all, for 1 second. Hold on. I don't know what this is. I'm confused. I don't even know where that coming from. Oh, yeah. Okay, y'all, I'm ready. I'm learning. I'm still learning. Okay. Y'all ready? Okay. Let's start over. Okay, y'all, I'm ready. I'm learning. I'm still learning. Okay. Y'all ready? Okay. Let's start over.
Hi, how can I help?
I did it hang up.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can hear you now. How can I help you?
Okay. I talked to you earlier and you said that the request I did was blocked or something, but I looked at the terms and conditions and it says you can say things about like infidelity and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how that was blocked.
Say that again, sorry. You can or can't?
No, okay, so I did a report earlier and you said you would send it to me, then when I called back you said it was blocked, that I wasn't allowed to get the report, but then I clicked the terms and conditions and it says you can do questions about infidelity and stuff like that.
Yes, infidelity you can, correct.
Right, and that's what I did.
Your report was about infidelity, was it?
What did you say?
So you're saying your report was about infidelity?
Yeah. Like I put questions in for it and you had to put like answers and you said something about it being blocked.
Yes, so what were your questions?
So it was about during the time that we were away inside of in another state that I talked to, and I gave the person's individual's name, Ortega. That was one of them. Then it said, "Are your eyes blue?" And I did a couple of the questions that were on the bottom.
Okay.
Hold on, y'all. Let me start this back over. Too much going on. Okay, y'all. This is the fake lie detector, allegedly. Okay.
Hi, how can I help?
I did it hang up.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can hear you now. How can I help you?
Okay. I talked to you earlier and you said that the request I did was blocked or something, but I looked at the terms and conditions and it says you can say things about like infidelity and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how that was blocked.
Say that again, sorry. That you can or can't?
No, okay, so I did a report earlier and you said you would send it to me. Then when I called back, you said it was blocked, that I wasn't allowed to get the report. But then I clicked the terms and conditions and it says you can do questions about infidelity and stuff like that.
Yes, infidelity you can, correct.
Right, and that's what I did.
Your report was about infidelity, was it?
What did you say?
So you're saying your report was about infidelity?
Yeah. Like I put questions in for it and you had to put like answers and you said something about it being blocked.
Yes, so what were your questions?
So it was about during the time that we were away inside of in another state that I talked to, and I gave the person's individual's name, Ortega. That was one of them. Then it said, "Are your eyes blue?" And I did a couple of the questions that were on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, not sure in that case. Unfortunately, that's not what came through. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened there then.
She must have hung up on me.
Because I read that you can do this. Um, yeah, it says on it that you can do that.
Yeah, you would be able to about infidelity, but the questions that were submitted for your order were not to do with infidelity.
Yeah, I didn't submit questions that were not to do with infidelity.
Okay. All right. See, well, I'll have to look into that then in that case.
Do you want me just to write you the questions down?
No, it's okay. I'll just need to have a look into this then to see what can be done.
Okay.
Just remind me again, what was the name on the report?
It was Stauch, Stauch.
Uh-huh. And that's your surname, is it? Your last name?
Yes.
Okay. And first name is?
Tecia.
Okay. And how do I spell that?
It's Tecia.
Tecia.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. All righty. Well, let me have a look into that and I can come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
What's
843
Mm-hmm.
798
Uh-huh.
1700.
Okay. Right. Thanks a lot now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That's the fake lie detector test, y'all.
And how can I help?
Yes, I didn't get any.
Let's go back to the one that we was listening to. Let's listen to that one more time, y'all. I got confused.
Hi, how can I help?
I didn't hang up.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I can hear you now. How can I help you?
Okay. I talked to you earlier and you said that the request I did was blocked or something, but I looked on the terms and conditions and it says you can say things about like infidelity and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how that was blocked.
So that again, sorry, that you can or can't.
No, okay, so I did a report earlier and you said you would send it to me. Then when I called back, you said it was blocked, that I wasn't allowed to get the report. But then I clicked the terms and conditions and it says you can do questions about infidelity and stuff like that.
Yes, infidelity you can, correct.
Right, and that's what I did.
Your report was about infidelity, was it?
What did you say?
So you're saying your report was about infidelity?
Yeah. Like I put questions in for it and you had to put like answers and you said something about it being blocked.
Yes, and what were your questions?
So it was about during the time that we were away inside of in another state that I talked to and I gave the person's individual's name, Ortega. That was one of them. Then it said, "Are your eyes blue?" And I did a couple of the questions that were on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, not sure in that case. Unfortunately, that's not what came through. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened there then.
Because I read that you can do this. Yeah, it says on there that you can do that.
Yeah, you would be able to about infidelity, but the questions that were submitted for your order were not to do with infidelity.
Yeah, I didn't submit questions that were.
All right, yeah. Let's try to get to the court. Let's get to the court. I know it's over with, but whoo, that's too much. Hold on, y'all. What? I don't think that guy knew what she talking about. I don't know. I'm trying to make Letecia look kind of decent, but this ain't working. Okay. That was the fake lie detector test that y'all heard. Okay, we on on the update. That's what you heard. Let's look at this. I'm sorry. Hold on, yeah. Hold on 1 minute, y'all. Let's see some. Oh God, not this. I don't want this. I don't want that. I want day 5. What happened in court today? I want no this right here. Hold on, y'all. Let me share the screen with y'all. Okay, let me go back here and share the screen with y'all. It's a lot. I'm learning. Okay. Okay, 1 second. I have some Microsoft. Okay. Okay, we ready now. This Letecia murder trial today. Now I have some information, but I don't want to show it right now. So I'm gonna show this.
Myself and Sergeant Kurt Smith went to look at the surrounding schools, to include French Elementary, to see if we were able to locate her Tiguan.
Oh
Do you
no,
know
I
about
already
what
did
time
this.
a night that would
I don't want to
happen
do
at?
that one.
I believe it was about 7:30, a little bit after.
If your report indicates that you went to Mesa Ridge High School at 7:37 p.m. on January 28, 2020, would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
And is that the first area you went to go look for the Tiguan at?
I believe so, yes.
And did you and Sergeant Smith go to the Colorado Springs Airport to look for the Tiguan?
We did not. I went with Detective Marissa Williams.
Okay, so you and Detective Williams went to the airport.
Yes, sir.
What time did you go to look for the Tiguan at the airport?
I do not recall.
Would it have been after 7:37 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Hello,
And
yeah. There
why
you
did
go.
you go to the airport to look for the Tiguan?
So we knew that she had obtained a rental car, which we were notified by Mr. Stauch. So we thought that most people get their rental cars from the airport. So we thought we would go and kind of trace the steps, see if we were able to locate the Tiguan at the airport.
And where did you look at the airport, within the airport, looking for this vehicle?
So we had checked the short-term lots as well as the long-term lot, I believe.
Did you go to the rental car return area as well?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to locate this black Tiguan that Miss Stauch was driving?
No, sir.
Did you later learn as to when that Tiguan had left the airport?
I did.
Hold on 1 second, y'all. Hold on 1 second.
Were you
I'm trying to, I'm not understanding something. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on for 1 second. Trying to, oh, okay, there you go. I got it. I got it now, y'all. Okay. Let's do this. Now, I have this information, but I don't have all of this that I want to show y'all. This is day 5. Okay, here we go. Hold on, y'all. Hold 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I need to do something. There we go. Here we go, y'all. I'm sorry. Here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, y'all. I am so sorry. Now I'm ready. I'm sorry. Y'all got to let me know when y'all can't. What's going on? Here we go. Sorry.
Mhm. role back then?
I'm sorry, as far as,
You had a lot of roles, right?
yeah,
Is
there
that why it
was,
was tough to answer?
yes.
Let's talk about the investigation kind of as a whole. Was there a group of detectives working together, sharing information, following leads in the search in the hopes of finding Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir. Due to the size of this investigation, it was kind of an all hands on deck. We were all involved in assisting with this investigation.
Back on January 28th of 2020, were you assigned to look into some social media pages regarding the disappearance of Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that. What was that all about?
So I was trying to kind of gather more information because we were at an early point in the investigation, kind of just trying to figure out any little lead that we could go off of. And I found a variety of different search groups that were titled things like Gannon Stauch Search Party, Where's Gannon Stauch? And so it's kind of a variety of different groups. So I started using a undercover Facebook profile that is used solely for investigative purposes to get into those groups to see if there's anybody that was posting messages about what was going on or if there was any intel that we could gather by following those groups.
So would you routinely look at those different pages to see if there's any investigatory leads?
Yes,
those kind
sir.
of things? Okay. Back on January 28th of 2020, were you, along with Detective Bethel, in the process of interviewing Al Stauch and the defendant, Letecia Stauch?
I believe so, yes.
And were you present during the first interview at the police department with Al Stauch?
I was present, however, I believe that was the time that I was working on the Facebook groups, so I was not necessarily watching the entire interview.
Were you present when Mr. Stauch called in and said, hey, I got some additional information to give you?
Yes, sir.
And what was that additional information? Do you recall?
I know the interaction was Detective Bethel was on the phone with Mr. Stauch, and he had had some additional information about Ms. Stauch's Tiguan not being at the residence.
Did he indicate to you that he went to French Elementary School and didn't see the car there, and that was troublesome because Ms. Stauch had told him that's where the Tiguan was at?
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes, sir.
And what did that cause you to do as a result of getting that information?
So myself and Sergeant Kurt Smith went to look at the surrounding schools to include French Elementary to see if we were able to locate her Tiguan.
Do you remember about what time of night that would have happened at?
I believe it was about 7:30, a little bit after.
If your report indicates that you went to Mesa Ridge High School at 7:37 p.m. on January 28, 2020, would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
And is that the first area you went to go look for the Tiguan at?
I believe so, yes.
And did you and Sergeant Smith go to the Colorado Springs Airport to look for the Tiguan?
We did not. I went with Detective Marissa Williams.
Okay, so you and Detective Williams went to the airport.
Yes, sir.
What time did you go to look for the Tiguan at the airport?
I do not recall.
Would it have been after 7:37 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And why did you go to the airport to look for the Tiguan?
So we knew that she had obtained a rental car, which we were notified by Mr. Stauch. So we thought that most people get their rental cars from the airport. So we thought we would go and kind of trace the steps, see if we were able to locate the Tiguan at the airport.
And where did you look at the airport, within the airport, looking for this vehicle?
So we had checked the short-term lots as well as the long-term lot, I believe.
Did you go to the rental car return area as well?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to locate this black Tiguan that Ms. Stauch was driving?
No, sir.
Did you later learn as to when that Tiguan had left the airport?
I did. I do not recall what time it was right now, though.
That's important.
Were you involved in the search of the Tiguan?
I was not.
Okay, we'll cover that with someone else then. Were you asked to go to the residence to pick up some additional witnesses, i.e. Gannon Stauch's sister, Lena Stauch?
Yes, sir.
What was that all about? Tell the jury about that.
So we wanted to conduct a forensic interview with Lena Stauch, and so I was requested to come in with Detective Williams or transport Lena to the office of the sheriff for that interview.
And did you do that?
We got there, and Detective Williams ended up driving her herself while I stayed to assist with the search of the residence.
Did you also come into contact with an individual by the name of Harley Hunt?
Yes, sir.
And do you know who Harley Hunt is?
Yes, my understanding is that Harley Hunt was Ms. Stauch's daughter.
And did you or anyone else attempt to interview Harley Hunt on January 28, 2020, when you went back to the residence?
Yes, sir. When I was there, Detective Arndt had advised me that she had tried to speak with Harley, and Harley had refused to respond to the office for an interview and refused to give any information.
And while you're there at the residence, do you remember about what time you got back there?
I would have to reference my report.
If your report says 10 p.m., would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
So 10 p.m. on January 28, 2020, you're at 6627 Mandan.
Yes, sir.
And who else was there? Do you recall to conduct the search?
I know there was Detective Farrell, Detective Arndt, and Detective V. Hill were also present.
And what was your role in that part of the search?
So I perform scribe duties. And scribe duties is I record all evidence that's collected and assist with putting it into packaging to be transported to our evidence facility.
And so could you explain that process to the jury? Do other detectives collect the evidence, give it to you, you bag and tag it, so to speak?
Yes, sir. So when you perform scribe duties, it's like a carbon copy piece of paper, and every item that another detective finds during the search, they would bring me. I would package it in an envelope and collect it all in one place, and then I was responsible for transporting it to the evidence facility when it would later be processed into evidence and completely sealed and everything.
And approximately how long were you there? Do you recall?
No, several hours.
And did you have further contact with Harley Hunt at that time?
While I was waiting for other detectives, I spoke with her kind of about various topics. She had notified me about her career aspirations and about kind of different various things. But if I would mention anything involving her brother, she would refuse to talk to me.
Was that unusual to you?
It seemed odd, yes.
Was she otherwise pretty talkative when she didn't talk about the reason why you're at the house searching?
Yes, sir.
And did you note the things that you actually bagged and later submitted into the evidence locker?
Yes, sir.
Do you have, can you tell the jury those items and I can help you refresh?
Yeah, I have a copy of my report if I can reference.
If you could turn to, it would be page date stamp 10075, 5 of 6 of your report.
Okay.
Have you done that?
Yes, sir.
Here are the items that you bagged and later submitted into evidence.
Okay. We collected a burned carpet square found in the trash can located in the backyard of the house. And this was found by Detective Farrell. A candle that appeared to have carpet fibers, a sock, and other items melted into the wax. This was found in a different trash can located in the back of the house by Detective Farrell.
I'm going to object is that you're saying that where the stuff was found and who found it would have been released by somebody else. Mr. Young?
Yeah, and it goes to the chain of custody. Detective Farrell is going to be testifying next, and he's going to cover these items. But since she's the one that actually put them in envelopes and sealed them, I've got to be able to cover it with her.
Overruled.
I think you're on number 3 there.
Yes, number 3 was swabs from a black and white Nike woman's right shoe. This was found in the laundry room by the garage by Detective Farrell. Swabs from a black and white woman's left shoe. This was found in the laundry room by the garage by Detective Farrell. Swabs of the light switch located in the basement hallway outside of Gannon's room, collected by Detective Farrell. Swabs of the light switch located inside Gannon's room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Farrell. Swabs of Gannon's bed located on the east wall of the room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Pete V. Hill. Additional swabs of Gannon's bed located on the east wall of the room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective V. Hill. Swabs of the exterior side of Gannon's door in the basement of the home, collected by Detective V. Hill.
And so you noted who collected those items. Would those detectives physically hand those items over to you for you to seal them in an envelope?
Correct. I would place them into an envelope and we would close it but not completely seal it until it was later processed at the evidence facility.
And did you later process those items at the evidence facility?
Yes, sir.
And did you seal them with tape?
Correct.
And is that so when the items would go to the lab for testing, they would be sealed until someone from the lab opened them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You turn your attention now to January 29th of 2020. Were you at the El Paso County Sheriff's Police Department here, right downtown?
Sheriff's Office. Yes, sir.
Is that on Vermajo and Tejon, just across the street?
Yes, sir.
Were you there waiting for Miss Stauch, the defendant, to show up for an interview?
Yes, sir.
And did she show up?
No, sir.
Did she show up late?
I believe she showed up later after I had already left.
Okay. When she arrived, did you go out to look at the vehicle that she arrived in?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what kind of vehicle did she arrive in?
In her VW Tiguan.
And is this the same VW Tiguan that you were looking for the night before?
Yes, sir.
You had a description of it, I take it?
Yes, sir.
Did you have photos of it?
Yes.
Did you recognize it? Where did you see it on the 29th when Miss Stauch came down to the sheriff's department?
She was parked inside the El Paso County Sheriff's Office parking facility that is located off of Castilla. And it was parked, I believe, on the 3rd floor when we located it.
And what was its condition when you saw it?
It appeared to be freshly washed. There was still water droplets all over the outside of it.
How do you know it was freshly washed?
It was a otherwise dry day. It wasn't raining. And so the presence of water on the entire exterior was unusual.
And was Detective Farrell with you at that point?
I believe so, yes.
And did he take pictures of
Believe
the
so.
vehicle?
I believe so.
You believe so? Believe
And
so?
did you later assist in obtaining a search warrant to search that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Based on what Ms. Stauch had to say in her interview, did you help obtain another warrant to search the house at 6627 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
And as far as you know, did that house go back and be searched on January 29th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Were you involved in that at all?
I believe that one was just the Metro Crime Lab.
Did you also have an opportunity to do what's called a canvass of various dumpsters in the university shopping center?
Yes, sir.
Why did you go to the university shopping center to do that?
So we had received information that Miss Stauch was seen at the Petco located at University Village on 2 occasions that day.
This would have been what day? Do you
The-
recall?
I believe the 28th. But
If your report indicates it was
sorry,
January.
27th. There we go. Sorry.
So January 27th, 2020, you had information that Ms. Stauch was at this shopping center.
Yes, sir.
And so what is a canvas of dumpsters? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So kind of looking for something out of place, perhaps something that would have been at the home that was removed from the home prior to our search, such as a suitcase or bedding or something along those lines.
Okay. Were you able to find anything in looking in those dumpsters and things?
No, sir.
And do you know how many times Ms. Stauch went to that particular shopping area that day?
I believe it was 2 times.
And we're going to look at some surveillance video from some neighbor's house later on this afternoon. Does that coincide with some of the times that we see Ms. Stauch leaving
Yes, sir.
her residence?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I'm going to take you to January 31st of 2020 now. Did you receive some information that Ms. Stauch may have had rented another vehicle?
Yes, sir.
What was that information, and can you share that with the jury?
I'd have to reference my report to remember the model of that vehicle.
Sure. We can go to page, it's Bates stamp 01200. It would be page 3 of your report dated January 31st, 2020.
I apologize. I do not have that report with me.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
They ain't playing.
Read that top paragraph to yourself.
Thank you.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
You know the make and model of the car that Ms. Stauch was understanding may have rented at that time?
Yes, sir. I had been advised by Detective Farrell that she had rented a Nissan Altima.
And did you later learn that it was actually her aunt who had rented that vehicle?
I don't think I had been made aware of that.
Did you do anything to obtain a GPS or a warrant to put a GPS device on that particular vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And why did you do that?
So due to kind of the ongoing issues we'd been having with knowing her Miss Stauch's location, because she kept telling us she was on her way and then she wouldn't be, and everything going on, we were afraid there was a chance of her fleeing. She had a lot of family out of state, so we were concerned that she may try to return out of state, and so we decided to get a tracking warrant to be aware of her location.
And did you in fact do that?
Yes, sir.
And do you know whether or not a tracking unit was placed on that vehicle?
It was.
Did you also have information with regards to some financial transactions that were taking place between Ms. Stauch and Harley Hunt and their various bank accounts?
Yes, sir. We were made aware that a large amount of money had been transferred into Ms. Stauch's account, I believe from Harley's account.
And would that have been $2,600?
Yes, sir.
And was that concerning to the fact they may be leaving the area due to that transaction?
Yes, sir. That kind of corroborated our thought of she'd be moving this money so that she was able to flee the state.
And did you know where Ms. Stauch was from?
South Carolina.
And now I want to turn your attention to February 1st of 2020. Have you still been continuing watching these social media groups regarding Gannon Stauch and things like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you at one point look into a group that called Support T Stauch or words to that effect?
Yes, sir.
And was that on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Did you see anything unusual in those postings during this time period?
If I recall, that was the account that there was a family member of Ms. Stauch posting on that page.
And during the course of the investigation, did you learn of a photograph that was taken of Gannon Stauch while he was in bed during the early morning hours of January 27th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And did that cause you to look for anything based on those photographs?
Yes, sir. We had observed that the photograph with Gannon had a specific set of bedding in it that was not located during any of the previous search warrants at the residence.
Now, at this time, I'd request to publish Exhibit 20 that's already been admitted in evidence.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Judge. Okay, behind you and to my left is People's Exhibit 20. Is that the photograph you're talking about that you learned was taken on the early morning hours of January 27th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And what is it in this photograph? What items are you looking for at this point?
So the red blanket with the snowflakes on it had not been located, as well as the sheet that is up above him. Not the one that's on the bed, but it's blue, and I believe it has airplanes on it.
Okay.
Or anchors, I'm sorry.
Anchors?
Yes.
And what about the pillow? Was the pillow ever recovered, ever found?
No, sir.
And so what did you do? We can take that down now, thanks. But what did you do to look for these items, and where did you go?
So we looked at a couple different locations. The primary one being we went to the El Paso County Transfer Station, known as the dump, and we had the staff locate the area of trash that had been collected around the time frame of the 27th. and they had told us where those items were, and we conducted a search of all of the trash and garbage, attempting to locate that bedding.
And would this be the landfill, or as you
Yes, sir.
said, the dump?
Yes, sir.
And did you search in the areas where that neighborhood, that trash would go to?
Yes, sir. They had located where that area had been dumped, and we were able to identify mail from different addresses on Mandan and Intrepid and in that area.
And did you find anything related to 6627 Mandan Drive?
No, sir.
I'm going to jump to February 4th now, of 2020. Were you also assigned to review various surveillance videos from residents?
Yes, sir.
And would these be like ring video or doorbell videos, those type of things?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to start out with video footage from 6643. Are you familiar with that address?
Yes, sir.
And did you review all the video from that particular address?
Yes, sir.
And just so we're clear, are some of these videos different? Are some of them motion activated and some of them 24/7?
Yes, sir. There's different the video surveillances. Some of them are set by the user able to.
Okay, I didn't want to show that because I already have that program for y'all to see. So I'm not going to show that right now. But I have a video of what he's about to show now. So I don't want to see that. I don't want y'all to see it right now. So, but I do. You'll see it tomorrow. Let's see. Okay.
Now streaming on Paramount+.
I think I just showed it. All right, y'all. I have something else to show you all, but I don't want to show it to you now. You'll see it though, but not tonight. But y'all see the difference in her emotions and the way she looks and the way she moving around over there. I wonder how she feel. Everyone talking about her. I mean, I don't understand that. Now, see, I didn't want to show this right now. Now, I didn't see this. Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
Head towards almost a little
Oh,
bit to the back of the head there.
Yes, the ear is right here, right ear, and then you can see that there's a wound here.
Okay. 175.
And here you can see the wound. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the wound right here. And you can see like the edges are not like a knife wound.
So these injuries, as you look at them as the expert in this, the edges are different to you from what we've seen before from the sharp force injuries.
Now, this particular section of the video may be a little graphic, so if it's gonna disturb you, I tell you not to watch it. Go watch something else until we come back.
Yes.
And then when we talk about a blunt force injury like this, what kind of things can cause a blunt force injury like these?
Any blunt object like a bat, piece of wood, hammer.
Could even the butt of a gun?
Yes.
176.
So this is another laceration that's on the top of the head.
What I'm getting at is, were you able to make any type of conclusion as to the distance the gun was?
What I did was Skip did because a lot of stuff kind of graphic and I didn't really want to see it. But they said when this trial had already started that we were gonna see stuff that we didn't want to see. So I don't want to see that.
From the body when it was discharged?
No.
Okay. Were any of the sharp force injuries, were any of them in and of themselves fatal?
Because of the decomposition, I couldn't really tell. I mean, when I looked at the lungs, because I was thinking it would penetrate the lungs, I didn't see any injuries, but because there was decomposition, it was hard to see. So I couldn't really tell with the injuries that went into the chest cavity.
So I guess all you can say is it's possible. Is it possible that some or one or more of these sharp force injuries were fatal?
Yes, it could be fatal if left unattended.
Okay. And it looks like in your report, you look for organs, you remove some of them, you measure the contents of fluids in different organs and that sort of thing. It looks like in your report, it mentions that you couldn't find a pancreas. Is that because Gannon did not have a pancreas or because it had just decayed to the point of being able to identify it?
Yes, decomposition.
Composition. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of the organs and whatnot in Gannon, they had decayed to the point where you couldn't identify him anymore.
Yes.
Okay. And is that typical for a body that had the history of exposure to the elements?
Yes.
Okay. Just a moment, doctor.
This is. Whew.
Oh, thank you.
Redirect.
Thank you.
She over there biting her nails. Never. My breath.
Mr. Cook was just asking you some questions about the sharp force injuries. You remember those questions?
Yes.
And couldn't tell whether those could have been fatal on their own or not due to the decomposition.
Yes, but I think I said something. I couldn't tell, but then you could die from injuries into the chest cavity if left unattended.
Is that why you determined that the sharp force injuries were contributing factors to the death of Gannon Stauch?
Yes.
The fact that this body was put into a suitcase and thrown over a bridge, does that indicate to you that this was an attempt to hide this type of evidence, the evidence that we're finding from these injuries?
I think if you can lay a little bit of foundation about what expertise you might have in that regard.
Okay.
Let's try that first.
Yeah, sure. So doctor, when we're talking about investigations into deaths of persons, especially I guess in Florida where there's lots of waterways and that kind of thing, is it common to find bodies that have been disposed of into waterways or bayous or marshy areas in Florida?
Yes, we have had some deaths.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have had some deaths found in bodies of water.
Is it typical in your expertise to find that a person may have been murdered in one place and then intentionally moved to another place like a waterway or bayou or marshy area to make it harder for authorities to find and examine the body?
Yes.
Okay. Was that apparent in this case? That a
Yes.
body had been moved some distance in mileage and then pitched over a bridge into a potentially marshy and watery area?
Yes.
And so does the fact that that occurred here indicate to you in your expert opinion that there was also the attempt to hide this body from authorities so it wouldn't be detected and examined to determine how this person died?
Yes.
Huh?
Is that an intentional act?
Yes.
Yeah, she can't. Nah.
You were asked by Mr. Cook about stippling. So let's talk and so the jury understands what stippling is. Is stippling essentially powder burns on the surface of skin that would be caused by somebody shooting a gun at somebody in close proximity to that skin.
Yes, usually 2 inches to 2 feet from the skin. The gun would be 2 inches to 2 feet from the body. And so you would see the gunpowder leave marks, little pinpoint marks on the skin.
These powder burns, are these expelled out of the barrel of the firearm when it's fired?
Yes.
If somebody put a pillow between the gun and the victim, would that prevent stippling from appearing on skin?
Yes.
Did you, in your autopsy, also include a pillow and x-rays and find 2 bullets inside of that pillow?
Yes.
Mhm.
Mr. Cook started out by asking you about if these sharp force injuries and the blunt force injuries, if these appeared to be random acts. And I want to be clear, do you mean that these were just randomly happened to Gannon without somebody intentionally causing these injuries?
Can you repeat?
Yeah. Well, were these random injuries or did somebody intentionally cause these injuries to Gannon?
Oh, it was intentional.
Okay, so when we say the word random, when Mr. Cook was asking you that, you don't mean that these were randomly happening with no rhyme or reason as to who or might be causing these injuries?
Yes, because he said there was no pattern. So I said there's no pattern.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to drive towards. These were intentional acts, as you just testified to. They did, though, target specific areas of Gannon's body, correct? It's not like these were injuries to his lower legs or toes or feet, correct?
Yes.
And so were these targeted towards upper body area, head area, chest area?
Yes.
Does that indicate a person had an intentional desire to cause potentially fatal injuries to Gannon
Yes.
because of where they're targeting?
Yes.
Is it more fatal to cause somebody an injury to their lower leg or to their head?
More to the head.
Okay. And Gannon had lots of injuries to his head, is that right?
Yes.
In all of these injuries, are these all the injuries that you talked about? 18 sharp force injuries, 4 blunt force injuries, and a gunshot wound to the chin that ultimately killed Gannon. Are all these pre-mortem injuries, meaning they happened while Gannon was still alive?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Dr. Ignacio? Looks like we have a few. Counsel, retrieve those and approach, please.
They got a good jury. Woo-wee. Jury ain't playing. Got a pretty good jury, y'all. 10 men and 8 women. That's a powerhouse. Mm-mm. Well, some of them must be police officers. Those who watching, don't forget to smash that like button, y'all. This case is getting very interesting. But oh my goodness, Ganny was strong. Ganny didn't want to leave this world. He fought for his life. I don't see it. I still say somebody helped her did this.
Sorry. Dr. Ignacio, can you determine how long the body has been decomposing? Do you know when the time of death was?
No.
And Dr. Ignacio, during the autopsy, was there evidence of any burns on the arms, burn marks, or bubbling of the skin?
I couldn't see that because of the decomposition.
And how long does Tylenol and hydrocodone stay detectable in the body?
Um,
Don't guess.
Usually 12 hours after the body would already metabolize the drug and come out in the urine, so that the drug was already there at the time of death.
All right. I will allow reasonable follow-up as to those questions only. Mr. Allen?
So Dr. Ignacio, just so we're clear, when you say 12 hours for those things to metabolize in the body, if it hasn't completely, like the hydrocodone, had not completely metabolized and been expelled by the body, even if it's been an extended period of time, like in this case, you would still detect hydrocodone.
Yes, if you were alive and you would take hydrocodone, after 12 hours, we don't even test for drugs anymore because it's going to be out of the system. But when he died at that time, he had the hydrocodone. It was even able to metabolize because it converted to hydromorphone. So there's some time there, but the drug was still there because he died around that time.
When you say that the hydrocodone had started to metabolize, so that means, does that mean that the body has processed some of that hydrocodone, but not all of it at the time of death?
Yes, maybe before he died and he was attacked.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cook?
Thank you. Doctor, when you were talking about the burning or bubbling of the skin,
Mhm.
so there could have been burn marks or burn injuries on the arms, but due to decomposition, you would not be able to detect those any longer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you get a sample to test for drugs, as in the case with Gannon here, where are you getting the sample from? Or is there still urine that can be captured from the bladder? I know they do that a lot of times in these toxicology tests. Or just tell the jury where you got these samples from.
Since he didn't have any more blood, it was all fluids, body fluids. We couldn't test that, so we take liver. So these levels are from the liver tissue.
Okay. And a lot of times in these types of investigations, you have a blood level and a urine level. And I've heard testimony before that a urine levels, they're not as accurate about time of ingestion and everything, and it's mostly byproducts. Would the samples that you got from the liver, would that be considered a blood level or a urine level test?
It's a liver tissue level.
The liver tissue level. Okay.
Yep. Because it don't have nothing to do
Which
with.
would indicate if it was to the liver, there had been some metabolism of the drugs that had already taken place by the body.
Yes, it was recovered in the liver.
Okay. Did you attempt to get samples from anywhere else?
Can't recall. I think
If you have your report, would that refresh your recollection?
we took liver tissue and spleen tissue, but they tested the liver.
Okay. And what is the significance, I'm sorry, of taking
Yeah.
samples from the liver versus the spleen?
If you can't take from blood or urine, we take from the liver.
Okay.
So what would
You can see there will be drugs in the liver too, and there might be levels for that. But with this case, because of the decomposition, it's hard to determine the values.
Okay. And I guess I asked a bad question and I apologize. When you're taking a sample from the spleen, why take it from the spleen as well as the liver?
Yeah.
Because you could also have drugs in the spleen. Blood flows through the spleen.
Okay. And would you expect to have the same results
Yes,
with
with
a
urine.
liver sample versus a spleen sample, or could there be differences?
It could be different.
All right. Thank you, doctor.
All right. Thank you, doctor. You may step down.
All right then.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will take our morning recess at this point in time. Again, do not discuss the case among yourselves. Do not discuss the case with anyone else. And if we can have everyone back in the jury room at, say, 10:25, we should be able to start on time at that point. All rise for the jury, please.
Wow. I mean, it's just like the body. I mean, the body been out there for a long time. The children, when the children went missing, they was out there for some. Oh my goodness, honey. And she's sitting over there ready to go eat. That's Letecia, y'all. Been had her hand in her mouth the whole time. So they on break.
Recordings just.
Woo, Chad. It's terrible. Let's see how long they break. Okay, they back right there. Okay, let me bring it back to right here. Let me bring it right here. Okay, y'all. This the dude who was listening to the lie detector test. That false, allegedly lie detector test. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of tired.
Since 2014,
What are your duties with the FBI?
I'm assigned to a violent crime task force. I primarily investigate criminal enterprises, complex narcotics investigations, fugitive work, and other violations of federal law.
At some point, did you get involved with the investigation into the disappearance of Gannon Stauch?
I did.
What was your role and how did you get involved in that investigation?
I was requested to assist the El Paso County Sheriff's Office shortly after Gannon was reported missing. My role at the FBI was the lead case agent for the FBI. So information that we obtained from search warrants or interviews or other data would be compiled and would eventually all come through me.
The fact that the investigation spanned from Colorado through to Florida and then South Carolina, did having the FBI on board assist with that investigation and just the spread of the investigation?
It certainly did. The FBI has a lot of resources nationwide, and it's sometimes a little less complex for the FBI to arrange resources in other states than, say, it would be for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office locally.
When you said that you were the lead agent, what does that mean for the FBI to have a lead agent on a case?
I was assigned the responsibilities of that case, of maintaining the case file and of making the investigative decisions at the FBI.
Are you also serving as an advisory witness in this case?
Yes, I am.
Is that why you're sitting sort of behind us in during testimony here?
That's correct.
Is it probable that you'll testify more than one time?
I think that's up to you.
Yes, it is. So, Agent Cohen, in your work as an FBI agent, is it typical for you to get involved in wiretaps?
I've been involved in several wiretap investigations throughout my career.
What does it mean to have a wiretap?
A wiretap, common language, is actually the interception of oral or electronic or wire communication. In essence, we're able to listen to phone calls or to view text messages as they're sent.
Tell the jury what the process is to gain access to listening to those types of things.
A wiretap is considered a very intrusive investigative method. It's not something that you can just do on any investigation or even at the start of any investigation. Quite frankly, it's the most intrusive technique law enforcement has, where we're listening to somebody's phone call in a scenario where you would think you'd have the highest expectation of privacy, talking on your phone in your own private setting. And not only are we receiving the communications of the person whose phone we've installed the wiretap on, but we're also intercepting communications of other people that would be in contact with that person. So in order to get a wiretap, it's a pretty lengthy process. We have to show to the court that there has been an exhaustion of all other techniques that could be used in investigation, and that other techniques wouldn't be effective. So in this particular investigation, we had done multiple search warrants. We had done GPS trackers on cars. We had done location on cell phones. We had done physical surveillance. We had conducted interviews. And we have to demonstrate not only to the court that this is a necessary technique and that it would be reasonable that we would collect evidence, but we also have to show that all that other stuff would no longer be effective in the investigation.
What would happen if you've got the wiretap set up, you've got the approval of the judge, and you start to hear something that is outside the scope of the investigation? What would somebody listening to the wiretap do?
Well, earlier I told you that the privacy of individuals is so important. And if we were listening to a wiretap, we have a set of instructions called minimization instructions that come with every wiretap. And part of those instructions, it tells investigators a certain set of rules that if we were to listen to things that weren't relevant to the investigation, that we can't really do that. We'd have to pause the listening for a certain period of time, and then we could pick it back up. Say it could be 30 seconds or a minute, but we'd pause that and then pick back up to see how the conversation was progressing.
Does that protect the information that you're gathering so that it's really only case-specific information as opposed to extraneous or other private information that might be discussed in other types of phone calls?
That's correct.
Was a wiretap method used in this particular investigation?
Yes, it was.
During the process of you being involved in obtaining wiretap authorization from a court, in your knowledge of the case, was it apparent that this particular defendant was switching the way that the person was communicating, meaning phone numbers or devices, that type of thing?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
Well, the defendant in this case had her original phone seized by law enforcement shortly after she reported Gannon to be missing. After that, she decided she was going to leave the state of Colorado, and she purchased a new phone at a Walmart with a different area code under a name of a person
Make sure
who
y'all
may or
can
may
y'all
not
hear?
really exist. It certainly wasn't her.
Was that purchase made in Trinidad, Colorado?
Yes, it was.
And then do you know this because of listening in on the wiretaps and seeing what numbers are being used, but also because of another investigative method that was being used in this case as well?
We had other investigative methods being used too. We had done search warrants for financial records for the defendant, and we found that one of those financial records was a purchase at a Walmart in Trinidad. Some further investigation led us to the purchase of that telephone.
And then we had Mr. Stauch on the stand the first day of testimony in this case, and we listened to some recorded phone calls, which I think we've articulated as pretextual phone calls. Is that another method that you were able to obtain that information that the defendant was using other phone numbers beyond the first phone that was seized by law enforcement?
Yes, it was. One of the common things that I've seen in my training experience as an FBI agent is that people who are involved in criminal activity oftentimes will change phone numbers or will download Wi-Fi only calling applications that allow them to have different phone numbers frequently, and it's mainly to avoid the detection of law enforcement.
Is that an intentional act by somebody that is being investigated?
Those applications don't self-install on a phone. Cell phones don't just show up in your car. So yes, those are all very intentional acts.
Okay. And then as you're doing these wiretap investigations or methods, are those phone calls actually recorded so you can listen to them later?
Yes, they are.
Is that what occurred in this case, that wiretap conversations were recorded that captured the defendant's voice?
They were.
Did you have actual physical contact with this particular defendant?
Yes, I did.
Were you familiar with her voice?
Yes, I was.
The person that you had physical contact with and you know as the defendant, is she present in the courtroom today?
She certainly is.
Will you identify her by where she is sitting and what she is wearing?
She's seated at the defense table. She's wearing a pink shirt and has long dark hair and currently has her hand on her chin.
Your Honor, I ask that the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect. Go ahead.
And how did you become familiar with the defendant's voice?
Through several aspects. I had reviewed body cam footage from when deputies originally responded to the defendant's home. I had listened to other phone calls she was involved in. I saw the defendant give interviews on the news, and ultimately I was present for her arrest.
And the pretextual phone calls that you were participating in, and then these wiretap phone calls that you were able to intercept, are all of those voices that are caught in these recordings the defendant's voice?
Yes, they are.
Sit down. Let me get. Sit down.
With 688, 689, 690, and 691.
Sit down.
Special Agent Cohen, I've got in my hands People Exhibit 688. It's a disc. Do you recognize it?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I reviewed this disc and I initialed the disc.
What does the disc contain?
This contains wiretap calls, recorded wiretap calls.
Does it indicate a time and date of this particular call?
This particular call is February 18th, 2020 at 10:14 in the morning.
The file that
10:14.
this disc contains, is it a fair and accurate representation of that particular phone call?
Yes, it is.
As it relates to 689, do you recognize this disc?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I've also initialed this disc.
And what does this disc contain?
This contains a recorded phone call from the wiretap on February 18th, 2020 at 10:19 in the morning.
10:19.
Is this file on this disc is a fair and accurate representation of that particular phone call?
Yes, it is.
And then looking at 690, do you recognize this disc?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I've also initialed this disc.
And what does this disc contain?
This contains a recorded wiretap call on February 18th, 2020 at 11:16 in the morning.
Does this file on this disc, is it a fair and accurate representation of that particular phone call?
Yes, it is.
And then looking at 691, do you recognize this disc?
I do.
Sit down.
I've also initialed this disc.
What does this disc contain?
A recorded wiretap call at on February 18th, 2020 at 2:47 in the afternoon.
Does it actually say 1447?
It does.
And that's 2:47 p.m.
Correct.
Come here, Captain.
This disc is a fair and accurate representation of that particular call.
Yes, it is.
And at this time, I move for admission of 688, 689,
Sit
690, and 691.
Sit down.
Your Honor, subject to the section I added in prior hearing.
Council approach, please.
Count minutes. Sit down. Get down, Minnie. Let me go get my scissors. Y'all, they getting ready to play the audio, the fake audio, allegedly. Miss
All right, subject to the
Letecia.
objection, the exhibits 688, 89, 90, and 91 are admitted. Go ahead.
In permission to publish, starting with 688, Judge.
You may. Defense?
Subject to objection.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Let the record reflect she's identified the defendant.
Record whistle.
Hold on, y'all. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. Hello. Okay.
Multiple search warrants.
Okay. I hit that. Y'all, excuse me. Camper Minnie is just getting on my nerve. And I hit the wrong button, and I'm sorry. Gosh. Hold up, y'all. Let me take it back.
Or give these hydrocodone pills to any of the kids in the family.
No, they were hidden in the drawer in that nightstand area, so only myself and possibly the defendant knew where they were.
Would you have ever given those to Gannon?
No, sir.
Wait a minute, what is this?
We would call Special Agent Andrew Cohen. Is it probable that you'll testify more than one time?
A wiretap is considered
All of you.
instructions that come with every wiretap. And part of those instructions, cell phones don't just show up in your car. So yes, those are all very intentional acts.
Okay. And then as you're doing these wiretap investigations,
I do.
how do you recognize it?
I've also initialed this disc.
And what does this disc contain?
This contains a recorded wiretap call on February 18th, 2020 at 11:16 in the morning.
Does this file on this disc, is it a fair and accurate representation of that particular phone call?
Yes, it is.
And then looking at 691, do you recognize this disc?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
I've also initialed this disc.
What does this disc contain?
A recorded wiretap call on February 18th, 2020 at 2:47 in the afternoon.
Does it actually say 1447?
It does.
And that's 2:47 p.m.
Correct.
Is this file on this disc, is a fair and accurate representation of that particular call?
Yes, it is.
And at this time, I've moved for admission of 688, 689, 690, and 691.
Mr. Tellini?
Your Honor, subject to the section I had in the prior hearing.
Council approach, please. All right, subject to the objection, the exhibits 688, 89, 90, and 91 are admitted. Go ahead.
And permission to publish, starting with 688, Judge.
You may.
How can I help?
Hi, yes. I didn't get any confirmation about my test I paid for.
And so just for reference sake, before we get too deep into the phone call, sounds like there's two voices.
That's correct.
Do you recognize one of the voices?
I do.
Is it the female voice?
Yes.
And whose voice is that?
That's the defendant's voice.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Angela.
Okay, can I have your name, please? I can check if we've got the order here.
Yes. Keisha, well, last name is Stauch, Stauch.
Okay, give me one moment, please. Let me have a little look. Okay, yeah, perfect. I can see that we've received that, and we have actually sent the test. Have you not received that as yet?
Have what now?
We have already sent the results to your email account.
I don't have them. Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay, let me try resending that, and if you don't receive it, give us a call back.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, though. Bye-bye.
So Special Agent Cohen, the phone number that, at the very beginning, let me back up. There, you can hear ringing. Does that indicate that this is a phone call that was initiated by the defendant to a particular place?
That's correct.
Were you able to investigate and determine who it was that she was calling?
I was.
What was the phone number that she was calling?
Objection, foundation B.
Mr. Allen?
I can lay some foundation, Judge. When a wiretap is obtained, does it record both the outgoing and receiving phone numbers?
As part of the overall wiretap in this investigation, we also installed something called a pen register trap and trace device. That particular device will record both the outgoing or incoming phone number from the subject telephone.
And so does that mean that the receiving phone, the person that is being dialed or place that the originator is dialing would be caught in this trap and trace?
That's correct. It's identified as either an outgoing or incoming phone call, and we have the telephone numbers on both ends of that conversation.
And then were you able to look up that particular phone number that was dialed for this call and see it being associated with a particular web page?
Yes, I was.
What web page was that?
Fakepolygraph.com.
Okay.
Wow.
And is that what all of these phone calls are in relation to, is calls originated by the defendant to a purportedly fakepolygraph.com webpage?
That's correct.
Okay, let's jump into 689 and permission to publish 689, Judge.
You may go ahead.
Get off right there. Move. Move, Campbell.
May I help?
Hi, yes, I was just talking to you. Is there a way you confirm where you sent those? Because I still didn't get them.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get that resent for you. So if you wait for the next sort of 10, 15 minutes and let me know if you haven't received it by then.
I'm saying, can you check the email? Because I just want to make sure.
Okay, yeah, give me a moment. Spelled TECIALYNN2006 @yahoo.com.
Okay, cool. So you said like 10, 15 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
In that particular phone call, did it sound like there was an email address that was confirmed to the defendant?
Yes.
What was that email address?
It was Tisha Lynn at 2000. I can't remember the exact address, but it was an address that we knew to be associated to the defendant.
Okay, and that's what sounds like an English speaking person relayed, and then the defendant acknowledged that as being the correct email address.
That's correct.
Okay, and then 690, permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may go ahead.
Hello, how can I help?
Hi, yes, I'm calling again. I still didn't get that email.
Okay, can I ask your name, please?
It's last name Stauch, S-T-A.
Ah, right, yes, perfect. I can see here.
You told me 10, 15 minutes, and you said it again. I still don't have it.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's actually been blocked by management, this order, due to the content of the questions, so we're not going to be able to send this report.
Okay, so do I get my money back?
Unfortunately, not on this case, no. Obviously, due to our terms and conditions, it does clearly state that any sort of illegal activities or anything like that, obviously the management do reserve the right not to send the report. Obviously, we do incur processing fees, so that's why a refund wouldn't be due.
So what do you do now? Just delete it and go on about life and keep money?
Yes, we would do indeed.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now. Bye-bye.
Wow.
In that particular call, is it essentially being communicated that a polygraph result is not going to be provided because it's associated with the illegal activity?
Is the leading and further only determination.
Sustained on the second grounds, the jury can make their own determination.
Okay, and then permission to publish 691.
You may go ahead.
Hi, how can I help?
Hi, did it hang up?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can hear you now. How can I help you?
Okay. I talked to you earlier and you said that the request I did was blocked or something, but I looked on the terms and conditions and it says you can't say things about like infidelity and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how that was blocked.
say that again, sorry, that you can or can't?
No, okay, so I did a report earlier and you said you would
Mhm.
send it to me. Then when I called back, you said it was blocked, that I wasn't allowed to get the report. But then I clicked the terms and conditions and it says you can do questions about infidelity and stuff like that.
Yes, infidelity you can, correct.
Right, and that's what I did.
Your report was
What did you say?
so you're saying your report was about infidelity?
Yeah, like I put questions in for it and you had to put like answers. And you said something about it being blocked.
Yes. So what were your questions?
So it was about during the time that we were away inside of in another state that I talked to, and I gave the person's individual's name, Ortega. That was one of them. Then it said, "Are your eyes blue?" And I did a couple of the questions that were on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure in that case. Unfortunately, that's not what came through. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened there then.
Because I read that you can do this. Yeah, it says on there that you can do that.
Yeah, you would be able to about infidelity, but the questions that were submitted for your order were not to do with infidelity.
Yeah, I didn't submit questions that were not to do with infidelity.
Okay. All right. See, well, I'll have to look into that then in that case.
Do you want me just to write you the questions down?
No, it's okay. I'll just need to have a look into this then to see what can be done.
Okay.
Just remind me again, what was the name on the report?
It was Stauch, Stauch.
Uh-huh. And that's your surname, is it? Your last name?
Yes.
Okay. And first name is?
Tecia.
Okay. And how do I spell that?
It's Tecia.
Tecia.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. All righty. Well, let me have a look into that and I can come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the best number to get you on?
843
Mm-hmm.
798
Uh-huh.
1700.
Okay. Right. Thanks a lot now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Special Agent Cohen, these phone calls are from February 18th, as you've testified. Were you aware also at this same time that that's when these pretext calls were being recorded involving Al Stauch and the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Were there phone calls during that time with those pretext calls in which the defendant was talking about getting a polygraph examination?
Yes, she was.
What was she trying to convince the listener, I guess Al Stauch, of during those conversations?
Yeah.
Speculation as to
Sustained. I think you can rephrase and
Yeah.
refer back to the conversation, but I think it's up to the jury to make a determination about what the defendant's state of mind was during the conversation.
I understand, Judge. What was she saying to Al as it relates to the polygraph?
She was saying that she had passed a polygraph test and she was continuing to purport her innocence and that she had nothing to do with Cannon's disappearance.
Wow.
Passed a polygraph as it relates to what?
Whether she had anything with Cannon's disappearance.
She said fidelity.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
What for?
Cross-examination, Mr. Cellini.
What fidelity?
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Agent Cohen? Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Prosecution, call your next witness.
We would call Christina Cervantes.
Last name again?
Cervantes.
Cervantes.
Yep, it's spelled Cervantez, I believe.
Look at her, y'all. Look.
Right faster, don't I? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and then spell your name for the record?
My name is Christina Cervantes, Christistina. Last name Cer, V as in Victor, An as in Nora, T as in Tom, E as in Edward, Z as in zebra.
Do you need a glass of water?
Yes, please.
There's a water pitcher there.
And be careful when you unscrew the lid because it comes out fast when you do that.
You have to turn it just a quarter turn roughly, I think. It happens to all of us. Don't worry about it. What is your current occupation?
My current occupation is Crime Lab Specialist with the Texas Department of Public Safety in Texas.
Did you used to work for the sheriff's office here in El Paso County?
Correct.
What was your occupation with this sheriff's office?
Evidence technician.
What were your duties associated with being an evidence technician?
My duties were to intake evidence as it was collected from the scenes, from the officers as well. We also responded to calls when we had evidence to collect from those scenes. We also received phone calls from the public in reference to getting their property back.
And what were your dates of employment with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
I was employed with El Paso County Sheriff's Office from 2015, and I believe that was August of 2015 to January of 2022.
Okay. Were you working in January, February timeframe of 2020 for the sheriff's office
That is correct.
in that same evidence technician role?
Correct.
You mentioned that sometimes you would get calls from people in the public. What were those calls typically in relation to?
Typically, they were the public wanting their property back. Anytime we had evidence collected, the person would call oftentimes and ask for their property to be returned to them.
Would that happen fairly regularly?
Yes, sir.
And when they're asking for property to be released back to them, is this property that might be held for either a criminal investigation or even a civil matter?
That is correct.
What would be the, I guess, the protocol on a civil matter if there's some property that's held by the sheriff's office and it's a civil issue?
So if it's property that is held within a civil matter, usually we would have to get authorizations from the detectives in charge, letting us know what we could release, what we couldn't. Oftentimes, if there was an authorization from the court stating, hey, you can release this, it usually was signed by a judge, we could release it that way as well. But we always have to have that authorization in place before we could release it.
What was the protocol in place as it relates to any evidence or property that's held on a criminal matter?
On a criminal matter, usually until the case was completed and we got the proper authorizations, till those were received, we could not release it until that time.
Okay. As it relates to this time frame, do you remember working on February 12th, 2020? And I know this is over 3 years away, but do you remember working at that time at the sheriff's office as an evidence?
Yes.
Do you remember getting phone calls as it relates to the
No,
Gannon
still
Stauch
don't.
/ Letecia Stauch
Still
investigation?
don't.
Yes.
What were the nature of those phone calls that you were receiving in the evidence area for the sheriff's office?
So the nature of the phone calls could range from callers calling in saying they would like certain items of evidence back. From what I can recall, on several occasions, I had received phone calls in reference to property belonging to Mrs. Stout.
Okay, so just so that we're all understanding, did you receive some calls in which the caller identified themselves as Letecia Stauch?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So had you had a chance to hear Letecia Stauch's voice prior to these phone calls coming in?
At one point, I did. I do recall her coming into the lobby area at one point.
Okay, so what do you remember about that particular occasion?
I just remember her coming in and asking for her property back. And at that time, I told her I did need to get in contact with the lead investigator to make sure it was something that we could, in fact, release to her.
Okay, so you had a direct person-to-person interaction with her.
That is correct.
Did you hear her voice during that interaction?
Yes.
And do you see that same person here in the courtroom?
Yes.
Will you identify her for the jury, pointing to where she's sitting, and describe her clothing?
She is wearing a pink sweater, dark hair, long dark hair.
Your Honor, ask that the record reflect she's identified the defendant.
Record will so reflect. Go ahead.
And then did you get phone calls after that interaction with that same voice from the defendant?
Yes.
In a particular phone call, did you get a phone call from that defendant where she purported to be somebody different?
From what I can recall, yes.
Do you remember who it was that she was purporting to be at that time?
At that time, when I first got that call, the voice, it sounded like her, but claiming to be her daughter.
Okay.
Yes, what it
And
said.
when we were using the word her there, you mean her, the defendant.
Correct.
The voice sounded like the defendant, but was claiming to be her daughter.
Correct.
Oh.
Your Honor, may I approach with People's Exhibit 280?
You may.
Showing you what's marked as People's Exhibit 280. Is this a recording of that phone call that occurred on February 12th, 2020?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of that phone call?
Yes.
Okay. Move for admission of People's Exhibit 280.
Commissioner Board, item?
On the exhibit?
Yes.
Yes.
So somebody called and they identified themselves as Harley Hunt.
Correct.
Have you ever spoken in person to Ms. Hunt?
Before?
Yes, before the phone call.
Yes. If what I can recall from 3 years ago, I remember her coming into the lobby area.
Ms. Stauch or her daughter?
Mrs. Stauch.
Okay. Had you ever spoken to her daughter in person?
No.
So you don't have a foundation as what her daughter's voice sounded like
No.
and how much her daughter's voice may sound like hers?
No, sir.
I'd object to the foundation.
Overruled.
So-
Go ahead and publish.
Okay, so I had moved for admit, and I think
Stop.
you just need to formally admit it into evidence, Judge.
Exhibit 280. Will
I said stop.
Okay, and then permission to publish this particular recording.
You may go ahead.
Stop. No. Oh. Hurt my ear.
Office evidence.
Counsel.
Yes.
The first voice that we hear, is that your voice?
Correct.
And then that second voice, whose voice is that? Based on your knowledge,
Based on my knowledge, Mrs. Stauch's.
the defendant.
Correct.
Okay.
Earlier, I think you might have been busy or something, so I waited to call back for a little bit. It's okay. Sorry. What time did you call? I just called you like maybe 15, 20 minutes ago.
Yes, sir.
Just hold on. No, that wasn't. There's 4 of us working here, so that wasn't me. Yeah. I was like, sorry, I don't recognize your voice. You were busy. Okay, so I'm trying to find out about some contents of mine that was in the car. So my book bag, which had a lot of my social security card, birth certificates and stuff that was in a car that's still impounded. And I just want to know, they gave me the purse one day out of it, but how
Yeah,
come
but
book bag, and I need my MacBook for
try it.
school.
Your MacBook. Okay. What is your name?
Harley Hunt.
Harley Hunt. And do you have a case number so I can look it up?
Let's see this. I have this paper. It says agency number. Is that it, or I have a VIN number?
It should be agency.
Agency number. All right, 2020-1382.
All right. Let's take a look here. Sure. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. You said it's a book bag?
There's a black and white book bag that was in the back seat of the white Jetta, and it has like my passport, my social, my birth certificate, my dog paperwork, my MacBook.
Let's see.
Yeah, there's like there's a one blue bag that had a MacBook in it, and then there was a black and white book bag, and there was like my diamond rings are in it, and then there's a pink folder that had like my birth certificate and all that in it.
Okay. Let's see here.
Like, I understand they might still be holding the car, but like I can't like even like work or anything without having my passport because I'm a flight attendant. And
Okay. And you said your name was Carly Hunt, is that correct?
Harley Hunt.
Harley Hunt. Okay, Harley. Well, I can tell you right now, everything on this case is evidence. So because it's evidence, I cannot release it back to you without written authorization from basically a higher authority. They have not given us any written authorizations to release. So unfortunately, what you may want to do is contact the detective on this case. Have you been in contact with anybody?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and get the lead detective's number for you, and you can call them in reference to this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hold on just one second.
Sit down, man. Sit down. Y'all doing too much. They might be playing something we can't hear. They don't want us to hear.
Yeah.
Didn't I tell you to stop? Sit down, go.
Detective Michael Ballin.
This is the last witness for today.
Detective, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
It's a hands-on program that you go and the county spends a lot of money, and I sit there and learn how to use the machine basically and get an idea of what it's doing. So
Tell the jury about what the process would be like if I handed you a phone to use with this device. What process would you go through to obtain the data from that phone?
So effectively, if we know, for instance, we know the passcode.
Leave 'em
just
alone,
as an
Minnie.
example, we'll take that phone. We will, you set the phone up by enabling developer options and things like that. If it's Android, if it's iPhone, it's different. If it's iPhone, you just tell it to stay awake, basically. Then you plug the phone into the Celebrite UFED device, which is the little thing I talked about that you plug into your computer. And then you go through the steps on the screen that allows the phone, and you're interacting with the phone and the computer to set up permissions so that you can download data off the phone.
So basically selecting what data you want to extract from that phone?
Well, I mean, yes, what you're really doing is setting up the computer and the phone so that they can talk to each other. Generally, we do, I don't want to go too deep in the nerd world for you, but we use an application programming interface.
Like in this particular investigation that we're talking about, do you necessarily know who that particular device belongs to?
No.
So what information do you pay attention to make sure that the data that you extract from a device is assigned to that particular cell phone or whatever it might be?
Well, primarily, the first thing we do is try to keep things separated, you know, but I generally try to look at like IMEIs, the identifying numbers in the phone. That's generally how I try to identify which phone goes with which extraction, things like that.
When you said that kind of quickly, the court reporter looked at you. Did you say IMEI?
Yes, ma'am. IMEI.
Okay.
Sorry.
So is that an unique identifier
Come
that's
on.
assigned to cell phones?
Yes,
Okay. So let's talk about, did you have a chance to look at a rose gold iPhone 8 in this case?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, may I approach with
Come here, Carl.
222?
You may.
Sit down. Sit down. And you be still.
If you could just look over People's Exhibit 222, and when you're done looking it over, will you let me know?
I'm done.
Okay. Do you recognize People's Exhibit 222?
I do, sir.
What does it purport to be?
This is actually a Blu-ray disc containing a Celebrite of, I annotated it as Tisha's iPhone.
Okay. And when you do the Celebrite download, do you get the IMEI number? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to obtain phone number associated with a particular phone when you do the Celebrite?
Depends.
Okay.
At times we'll do an extraction with it just depends on the extraction.
Okay. Do you remember for this particular one, if you're able to get the phone number in the report for this particular iPhone?
I don't recall. I can look at my my report and see if that refreshes my memory.
Would that refresh your memory to look at your report?
Yes, sir.
May he refresh his memory with his report?
You may go ahead.
Thank you.
Do you have it up there with you?
I have, yes, sir.
Okay.
And so that the record's clear, you're asking for the phone number that's identified with this Celebrite extraction, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Excuse me just a second here while I pull out my Papaw glasses. Yes, sir. I believe I have that here.
Okay. What was the number associated with that particular iPhone?
843-655-7-460.
Okay. 843-655-7460. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. When you do an examination on a phone with this Celebrite process, do you examine the phone for any physical damage?
Yes, sir. Generally, I'll look at the phone and see if the screen is cracked. I'll try to annotate those things in the report.
What's the purpose of that?
Well, there's multiple purposes. One is we want to make sure that the device functions, so we're able to actually manipulate it to do the download. The other thing is we also want to make sure that we're showing the state of the phone when we receive it, so that down the road we can show that the phone's still in that same condition, that we didn't damage the phone or something.
Okay. Did this particular phone have any physical damage or defects?
Do you mind if I look at my report?
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
May you refresh his memory with his report, Your Honor?
You may go.
Thank you.
Sit down, Minnie.
I noted in the report that I observed no major defects on the device.
Okay. And then did you in fact perform a Celebrite extraction of that particular phone?
Yes, sir.
Is that extraction on People's Exhibit 222 that's in the envelope in front of you?
Yes, sir.
I move for admission of People's Exhibit 222.
Defense?
Subject to objection raised in prior hearing.
Right. The objection's overruled. Exhibit
222.
22 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach with 224?
You may go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Swap you out.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Have you had a chance to look over People's Exhibit 224?
Yes, sir.
What does it purport to be?
This is again, a Blu-ray disc with a Celebrite of item number 671, which was an iPhone.
And when you examined this particular iPhone, did you have any contextual information about who this iPhone belonged to, where it came from, anything like that?
I don't recall. Actually, I may have heard that this was Tisha's other phone. I don't recall.
Okay. Was this by chance a phone that was seized in South Carolina from the defendant?
That was my understanding, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember, were you able to get the same kind of identifying information, IMEI, like you mentioned earlier, on this phone?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if you were able to get a phone number associated with this particular phone?
I believe we were, yes.
Okay. Do you remember off the top of your head what that phone number might have been?
I would have to refer to the report.
Would that refresh your memory if it's in there?
It would.
Okay. May he refresh his memory, Your Honor?
May go ahead.
Thank you.
Getting your glasses out again?
Yeah, either that or you'll have to hold it so I can see it further away like that. Sorry.
Your arms aren't quite long enough anymore?
No, sir, they've gotten shorter, I think. Let's see. Okay. The phone number associated with this phone is 843-798-1700, 1700.
Did you do a physical examination of this phone as well to look for any damage or defects?
I believe so.
You believe so?
You believe so, or you did or
Yeah,
didn't?
yeah, I did. That was a
Okay.
matter, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what the results were, we'll say that. So,
Okay. Would it refresh your memory to look at your
It would.
report? May he refresh his memory.
Thank you, appreciate it. Actually, it looks like I didn't actually note on this one that any damage, which would indicate to me there probably wasn't any damage, but I didn't actually specifically note it in the report.
That's fine. Just so that we're very clear though, did you say was or was not any damage?
I'm assuming there wasn't. I think I would have noted it if there was. However,
Okay.
I didn't specifically note it.
Okay. And then did you actually go ahead and perform the Celebrite extraction on that particular device as well?
Yes, sir.
Similar to the last device that we just talked about, did you place that on the disk and that's what's in People's Exhibit 224?
Yes, sir.
All right, move for admission of People's 224.
That's same objection. Overruled. Exhibit 224 will be admitted.
Okay.
Get him, Judge.
For these particular two devices, did you do anything beyond extracting and putting them on disk and admitting into evidence?
There were a team of us that that kind of looked through things. I don't recall that there was anything specifically that I did that somebody else didn't do as well that wouldn't have been annotated by them.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Polini.
Detective, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Sorry. So just so I understand, if somebody gives you a phone, then you hook it up to the Cellbrite, and the Cellbrite basically takes everything off of it it can, and that's put in a disk for the detective then to go through.
Effectively, there's kind of an intermediate step where we use that other software. There's the UFED software which actually pulls the information, and then the physical analyzer software is a second piece of software that actually goes through that information and turns it into something that people can read. And then I create the report from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as like the information that is being taken from the cell phone by Cellbrite, that's not contained by any dates or any other parameters. That would be up to the detective who does the search.
Correct, because Cellbrite doesn't, it would be kind of like if you had a self-driving car and you only taught it to recognize stop signs. You wouldn't want to trust that car to drive you around town because it doesn't know the rest of it, right?
Sure.
And so Cellbrite knows 400 out of 4 million applications that it knows how to sort through. So we pull as much as we can so that we have the ability, if we need to manually sort through the other things, if that makes any sense.
So, I mean, the Cellbrite will basically pull years and years. If I've had a cell phone for 5 years, it would literally, it possibly pull 5 years worth of text messages.
Maybe more. If you had pulled that information, if you had pulled information from another device over to your phone at some point, you say you're, all the way back to, whenever Android started, say, so yeah, that's how that would work. So.
Okay. Thank you, Detective.
Absolutely.
Redirect. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Bauman? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you very much.
Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Yes, Sergeant Kurt Smith.
Oh, the thing good. What is it?
Sergeant Smith, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
You all situated?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say. Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and then spell your name for the record?
My name is Kurt Smith, KURTSMITH, and I'm a sergeant with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the sheriff's office?
Since 2006.
What are your current assignment? What is your current assignment with the sheriff's office?
I'm currently the sergeant of the Major Crimes Unit.
What are your duties associated with that assignment?
We investigate homicides, also involve shootings, kidnappings, major felonies. I currently oversee 7 detectives who lead those. The same investigation division.
What does it specifically say? If you could just read it.
It says Blu-ray containing Cellbrite report from kid's phone, iPhone 6.
Okay. Does that just then contain the Cellbrite of that iPhone 6 that you did a Cellbrite download on?
Yes, sir.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of that Cellbrite report?
Yes, sir.
And move for admission of People's Exhibit 227.
Exhibit 227 will be admitted.
Similar to what we just talked about with the last detective that was on the stand, once it's on that disk and downloaded from the phone, is that then accessible for the greater investigation if detectives want to access it to maybe search for specific things that might have been contained on that phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that the case with this particular disk?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Cross-examination, Mr. Twain. Do any of the jurors have any questions for Sergeant Smith? No? All right. Thank you, Sergeant. You may step down.
Judge, if we may approach.
You may.
Oh, do you want to go? I was going to do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think this is it. The evidence, they got too much evidence. That's why I'm gonna leave it like that. They have too much evidence to not to charge her with nothing. That woo! I'm gonna leave it like that, and then I'm gonna react. I'm gonna react on this video on this video on another video, probably tomorrow in the morning, early morning. So y'all join me tomorrow at 5:10, and we'll talk about this. Got a little exhausted, y'all. Ooh, shit. But we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll react on it tomorrow at work. You know, when I'm at work. Y'all know how we do it in the morning. Early morning vibes. Y'all know if you're not there in the morning, it's okay. But y'all like, share, and subscribe. Hey, this case right here. Leave it like that. I would hope y'all enjoyed it, but this is interesting. Sad too. All right, I like, share, and subscribe on that. Whew.